Hello, viewers. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your location. Today, I want to address two issues. One is a question that I got in my inbox, and the other is about our vestments. Today, I want to talk about the traditional Anglican dress, what we call the choir habit or choir dress. In the Anglican Church, between the 16th centuries and 19th century, that is, the Anglican Church dressed in this form that I'm about to discuss now. The preaching scarf, the hood, the surplice, and a cassock, probably with what we call a Canterbury cap, or some may add what we call preaching band to our dressing. The dressing I just mentioned now is not a vestment. It is used for morning office, evening songs, or compline. Before the Reformation, the Anglican Church were actually using the form of service that was linked to the Roman Catholic Church, where they had the Mass. Chasuble and harps were being used. Remember yesterday I talked about chasuble and harp. But today we are talking about the use of cassock, what I'm putting on, surplice, that's the white one we cover on top of it, that represents an harp, and the preaching scarf with an academic hood. In those medieval days, the academicians or academians were also being hooded after their graduation, and they also had the tippet. The actual name for what we call preaching scarf is tippet. They also had the tippet at graduation. They are even in America till today. At graduation, you are given a hood and the tippet. So that has nothing to do much with the ordination of the clergyman. It just has to prove that this clergyman is literate and that he studied theology in those days. But in our days, it could show that this person went to school. Of course, to be a clergyman or a pastor, you should be educated. Just like the Bible says, study to show thyself approved, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, but rightly dividing the word of truth. Brothers, the tippet is used not just for preaching. I hear a lot of people say preaching. Of course, you use it while preaching, but it's not just for preaching. It is also for the leading of morning service or morning prayer or evening songs. And when the priest is not celebrating the Eucharist, he is vested in that form. That is the tippet, the hood, and the cassock and surplice. Now, what about what I'm putting on? It's called the Canterbury cap. This is the traditional Anglican headgear. Why I call it the traditional Anglican headgear is that before the Reformation, this was what academicians were as well using, this hat, because it goes with the hood and the tippet. So I know we now use the barretta. The barretta is not a tradition. This is the original tradition from Britain, England. and it's called the Canterbury Cap. Now, there is one I want to correct, or I may want to inform our brother clergy, especially those of the high-ranking office in the church. The barretta, the Canterbury Cap, or a skull cap, is not actually a mark of an archdeacon or a canon. Every clergyman from tradition is allowed to wear these hats. But if you are a canon in our church, traditionally, there should be a red feather or some red strips in your own, what do you call it, hat. But if you are not, it goes just the way I'm dressed. It's just like some dioceses would say cincture. Cincture is just something to guide your double-breasted. That's why I came with a double-breasted cassock. Cincture is to guide the double-breasted cassock. Even a deacon is allowed to wear cincture. Cincture is not a mark of rank. In fact, of course, you know that we have just three orders: order of deacon, order of priest, and order of bishop. And these are the only three orders we have. So order of deacons, he crosses his toe, dresses the same way as a priest, and he's allowed to put on a headgear, that's a hat. A priest, the same. And a bishop, what differs is their color. The color differs. This is the standard Anglican practice. Again, there's another thing I have observed, and I would quickly want to address it. I see a lot of our brothers wearing a headgear while consecrating the Eucharist. No, not even a bishop is allowed to put on a mitre, a skull cap, Canterbury cap, or barretta when consecrating the Eucharist. In fact, headgears are meant for procession. After procession, during the actual service, it is expected that a clergyman will pull off his headgear or hat and keep it by the side until either he is ready to make some pronouncements or during processions, but never allowed to be used during the consecration of the Holy Eucharist. You cannot have a headgear, not even your skull cap, while consecrating the Eucharist. And the second thing I said I was going to address briefly, somebody asked me and said to me, the bishop is the liturgy. No, that's a wrong statement. The bishop is the custodian of our liturgy. He is not the liturgy. The liturgy simply is a way of worship, a tradition that was instituted by the church. So if the bishop must have to amend, correct, or adjust, it should go through the process of the canon. And it has to go through his synod, and his synod has to take it to the general synod, who also approves it. In fact, a bishop can only modify, but not change, because it is tradition. The word tradition means it was there before he became a bishop. So he can only modify, correct, and instruct. Now, because he is also under oath, just like the clergyman, we are all under oath to defend the constitution and canons of the church. That means he is to defend the tradition. He is not to change the tradition. It's something we have inherited and we'll pass it on to others. Thank you. I hope we all learned something in this brief class today.